Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Allie with Amory Speaks. It is Sunday, May 10th, 2026, just past 9 in the morning, and it's a rainy spring day, and I have a voice to match, so sorry about that, but welcome, and thanks for giving me your time and energy to listen to this video. I'm going to briefly just speak about a problem solution that I see a lot, and it's in combination of things that I've made videos about recently, and also just things that I've been bumping across in the past, certainly in the past year or so, definitely more than ever. People starting to realize that they are duped by the mainstream new age self-help ascension model, like these kinds of marketing schemes and tactics to try to get you to be enlightened or a more spiritual being, or like superhuman. A lot of people kick out this kind of assumption, right? That, oh, do these meditations, do this practice, do this breath work, and do these exercises, and you'll be able to astral project. You'll be able to see the future. You'll get winning lottery numbers. You'll be able to get that car you want. You'll be able to get that boyfriend or wife or whatever you want. That job, and people are really starting to come around. You see a lot of these videos of like, oh, I left the New Age movement, or oh, I left Christianity, or oh, I left Islam, or I left this sort of cultish following from this guru or that person or this figurehead or whatever. Exposing these kinds of people behind closed doors, or a lot of people upset because they are not getting what's being promoted and promised by all of these I don't even know what to call them. I honestly I think it's like a circus show, a charade. And I'll tell you why, and say what I believe is the solution to this problem, because I made a video about this before, about God being for everyone, goodness and forgiveness for everyone. There is one creator of all. I don't care what religion you think you're a part of. I don't care what ancient thing you think you know about, or what secrets, or who told you what about a hierarchy. There's a single source creator. And if and when we take that out of the picture, there's infinite trouble to be had. And infinite negative alignments to happen that are segregating and that close you off and close the system off from the whole and from God's source creator, the father, mother, whatever you feel comfortable associating that with. It doesn't matter. Language of man has no implications upon God. And of course there's arguments about that and all that kind of stuff, but when we get down to brass tacks, just keep it simple. It doesn't matter what you call the creator, as long as that inner compass, that inner truth within you is honestly seeking that north, is honestly seeking that love, that gratitude, and that transparency of being seen completely. That's what God inspires. That's what the Father inspires. That's what connectivity to source, spirit guides, all of these different being seen in the spirit world, all those kinds of promises and positions, to me, honestly, what they really reflect and come down to when we talk about, getting down to simple form, is being seen for who you really are, right? Not the mistakes, not the assumptions, not just X, Y, and Z of these couple of things, but your true talents, your truth, your purpose, who you really are, and the things that you've really done, and then things that you have done not so well or differently or poorly or even badly, negatively. There were reasons. There was a walk up to the choice that pushed you to that kind of bad decision or mistake. There was chaos or cloudiness. There was a lack of clarity at those points. But it feels like a justification almost that we have about why we made those choices, right? So also knowing that God, the Father, the great judger, I don't want to say judger, that's not a word, but he sees all. And so when we are connected and know that, we feel completely seen as well. Mistakes and successes, they both get seen, and they both are weighed equally, fairly. In our hearts, I believe each one of us seeks this, thinks about this, and knows that this is true. And so when we get into all of these kind of circuses, all of these different tents of beliefs and laws and assumptions, and it comes so much with getting in. This is why I really like this metaphor. It's like going into a tent. It's darker in there. There's lights angled at a certain position to the stage where the presentation of a shadow show happens, or puppet show, whatever you want to call that. And everyone gets really wrapped up in that, and they believe that the show on the stage is portraying something from reality, something actually more real than reality outside. And this is, the way that truth works, the way that true knowing and gnosis from within works, is that it is a free-form template. And we as conscious creators, with choice and sovereignty, we have our own chance and to put in whatever into that form that we would like to. Whatever intentions, whatever ideas, emotions, assumptions, backstories, and future stories, we get to put it in there. But we're forgetting or don't want to remember that we're accountable. We have the responsibility of what we choose to put into that, and what we leave out. And so much of these best life, self-help, spiritualist, even cult religions or ideologies in specific settings, like they all have the same kind of makeup and structure. And it's, when you look at it from just, let's look at system alignments, let's look at rules and what's allowed for energetic exchanges, they're not positive, free-flowing, organic systems. They are rigorous, they are outlined, they are, categorically typical to whatever frame that they're in. So, to me, that's sort of the first red flag that we're stepping away from organic neutrality. We're attempting to, inside this infinite potentiality, create a sort of sterile laboratory environment where only what we want to happen within it will happen within it. And that's not truth, And so it's no wonder, first of all, people feel disconnected or disillusioned or rejected even from these kinds of places and videos and retreats and all these different groups, and everyone knows that what's available out there to get into these days. Sorry about my light again now. It's starting to get dark. I'm going to try to keep this video quick anyway, so hopefully it doesn't fade into darkness. My point being here is that God, the Father, in all of these positions and all of these different presentations, and this is of course, my own opinion, has been removed or distorted a bit in order to play a part and a role for a benefit within these structures, or else completely excluded and not talked about, like a lot of the New Agey or different kinds of spiritual realms attempt to get away from a religious God of any religion. And sometimes even by doing that, they sort of remove God completely, or they create this buffer zone, and they create explanations about how God is interacting through those zones, or maybe a lesser God, or they put in between, or spirit guides or something like that, angel or something, like as a middleman. And a lot of even the Christian religions stick Jesus in there like this, so unfair to the true teachings and the true representation of what I think the truth of him is. But point being, they have this sort of their own variety of God, and it's not for everybody. It's not all inclusive. Their God, when they get in their tent, is special for them. It likes them more than anybody else. It serves them better. They know the connection closer. And there's always others. There's always an enemy, and there's always these strangers in these positions. There's always an opposite person who wants to take them down, and the fact that they follow God doesn't like that, or wants their God or something like that. And, and then there's always people who just don't know yet about their God, or God doesn't know them because they need to go tell them about God. And to me, I do a bit of an eye roll there, because it's like, God, the infinite creator, knows all. He is not waiting on you to tell anybody anything. He gives us, I believe, an opportunity as free growing creations here to interact with each other, because we are all of a body of one, of humanity, of a whole. And so just like cells in a body need to be good to each other, need to respond and live and communicate in certain ways, in different ways, for the best of the design, so does each individual, and so does each little subsection of people, but this kind of transparency, this kind of inclusivity is just not allowed, and people wonder, when they go to these sort of and I'll talk about a bit about like yoga and breath work and meditation, silence, all of these kinds of and they're all, they all can be used as true tools to really get closer to actual God, source, creator. If you go into it with the intention of that, if you're aligned for that, if you're ready for that, and you want to be seen, you want to use that inner compass clearly and really get somewhere. You're not trying to trick yourself. You're not so scared that, you're going to take wrong turns on purpose, or you just want the self-gratifying thing so that you look better in a swimsuit, or so that you can, come off smarter than other people, or make some kind of business that gets others into it to follow you, all of these kind of superficial, materialistic, basically creations of idols, pretty much, is exactly that. It's trying to create an egregore of your own so that you feel like you benefit off of it more than the actual true creator, which is just for everyone. And I'll say finally here, as sort of the reason that I even started this video, is because I see a lot of people talking about, I, not me, but people saying this, like, I ended up more miserable. I ended up suicidal. I ended up further away from God, or more egotistical, or even a worse person, or I ended up hating myself, or I ended up really bitter, or lost and confused even more than I was before when I went to try to get help from this person, or I went to try to do this therapy, or I went to try to join this kind of church or whatever. And I'll say that this is, these things happen to us for a reason. And honestly, it doesn't have anything to do with the circus show, the charade, whatever one you went to go be involved in and test out and try. It really is a great key, like a skeleton key for you when that kind of thing happens to you, because that is where true recognition comes from, about where your power of dominion really sits, where the focus of change actually comes from. And it's within. Just like Jesus said, the kingdom is within. It truly is. And lots of other teachers, Jesus wasn't the first one to say that, and he's not the last to say that either. But if you just go within without questing for God, without being in this position of connectivity to him or her, or whatever you want to call it, you will just get lost. You will end up, like they've said, it's no surprise that so many people have poor results, or really bad results even, from different exercises, from different spiritual practices, from trying to align and cookie cutter themselves into some kind of religious rules, because God isn't in those things. God is living and alive. It's breath, energy, and deeper, bigger, and smaller than anything that we even have words or comprehension to make of. It's a great mystery, and it's not meant to be pinned down and known. It's meant to be moved through and learned and felt and experienced. And so it's no wonder, like, a lot of those places that say, oh, do X, Y, and Z and you'll become this, or do this and then you do this. People come back and say, oh, it's demonic, or people come back and say, oh, I ended up, miserable, or I ended up with some kind of like unnatural attachment of negativity within me or upon me. And it's like, well, you opened yourself up to all of that because you're going into spiritual practices. You're going into expanding your mind. You're going into different states of body consciousness with no anchor, with no real connectivity to truth. They will, and places teach anchoring, and they, what they do is they give different names, and they take away the power of actually Source Creator, infinite, the one infinite Creator, and by subverting it and saying, oh, anchor into the earth, anchor into something within you, and it's like, it's not just the earth, and it's not just me. It's something bigger than all of that. It's from before and after that we need to anchor into. It's something unexplainable that we anchor into, not some kind of envisioned, manifested thing within the construction. Certainly not into the self. We go into things self-serving for self-serving purposes. It's an arrogant way to try to go and find truth. You're never going to find it, because arrogance is the opposite of truth. It doesn't want truth. It wants embellishments and also restrictions and other angles to make those embellishments more beautiful compared to something else, and call something else ugly or not as good or weak or whatever. And that's not the truth, because even if something comes off as weak or ugly or dark, it is of purpose. It was designed in that way, and it's a contrast to the other things here. And in between is where the message is where the purpose is. It's not within either of the polars or either of the presentations. It's within the communication of between the two. It's not tangible. I love how Course in Miracles teaches that no thought leaves its source, and that we are of the greatest mind, and that all thoughts are still within the mind of that great source, of God the Father. And if you think of it like that, and you think of infinity or the space created that all things happen within as this mind of God, it's like none of us can leave it or get outside of it. We are a part of it. You are a neuron within it. So if you are using actively your energetic conscious power of sovereign thought to blockade yourself and pretend that you're outside of God, or you're not seen by him, or you're not within the mind of the thought of God at all times, God's like, okay, we can pretend that. That's allowed in this place. We're doing exploration of manyness, and you have power of choice and will. So if that's your choice, go for it. I'll turn my face. I promise I'll uphold my end of the bargain. If you don't want me looking at you, if you don't want me around you, if you think you're doing things on your own, we can pretend that for a while. Bye. but God's always there, and you're always in God's mind, and God is literally giving you the respect of your own space and privacy in the way that you think you want it, in order to prove to you that, first of all, it's not going to work to your benefit ever, and second of all, it's not real. you know but people will, and they'll go on the meditations, they'll do a kundalini, they'll listen to all of these different things, trying to get these activations and all of these results that they think are markers to them, like getting closer to God. But in fact, by you doing that without ever acknowledging God or inviting him in to be a part of that practice in the first place, you're just creating that bubble of you're away from him even darker, even thicker. And he's just like, open it up. Open it up. Like, I see what you're doing. You could have great work going here, but it's not going to serve you because your heart is closed. Your heart is hardened. So and anytime we do, any person who does actually go to any events or go to any of these things or start any of those activations or work through different forms of even religious protocols and things like that, those really all can be so beneficial, can be amazing, and bring you even closer and closer to God. But it's your active intention of wanting him to listen and look at you and watch all of it, and wanting to be seen in this 360-degree full spectrum light that he offers, pure truth. And that willingness alone unlocks the doors. That willingness alone protects you from anything that thinks that it's going to get you, or you might think, oh, could this thing get me, or this is out there. The light from within is like, oh, God is like, no way. Everything's good. Everything's on purpose, for a purpose. You are seen at all times. You are held within my mind. Don't worry. No harm can come to you. And that doesn't mean, of course, no physical harm or bad things might happen to you, no uncomfortabilities. You might get no bumps and bruises. That's what this place is for. No harm will come to you is to your mind, to your heart, to your soul, this everlasting energy that is the real thought firings. They're not the body of the neuron, not the anatomy of brain tissue or a neuron in this metaphor of God's mind, but to be that activity, to be that sharing link that dendrites come together between. We are those things. We have something that's greater than the anatomy, that lasts infinite, eternally inside of that. So recognizing that and going into everything like that, everything will always take care of itself. And no matter what kind of pain that you find yourself in, there will always be a peace of heart in a relinquishment of that pain available to you to step out of it and to find release and to find safety and a way through, always, because that's promise of God, and I would say, all the way out to extreme examples, I agree with that. And I've been through a few extreme dramatic traumas and things like that, and I've suffered from chronic illnesses and migraines and things that come up once in a while, and things that absolutely physical pain that when you're in it, it feels like it can't, and I never get any worse. How are you going to get through it? And it will never go away. Is those kinds of things that come in when you're in a really bad spot, or when you're in a lot of pain, or something critical has happened to you. And I know from personal experience that opening up to God in those times, I've always been rescued. I have always felt arms of nourishment and support, comfort and love around me, around my soul, to pull me out of that and to remind me it won't last forever. It doesn't last forever. And there is a message in the pain for you. There is a plan in this crisis, that something will be unfolding in such a bigger picture that you can't even imagine the beauty of it later. And it's all going to be worth it. It's always worth it. So those kinds of, wonderful, sweet whisperings always come through. For me, they always have. And for anyone that I have spoken to who has and seeks a connection to God and has a true, their heart open truly to God, no matter what they've been through. Some people I've talked to have been through a lot worse things than me even. and they have found peace. They have found that it was literally just one star in a big constellation, and that constellation turns out to be so beautiful and bright and guiding for others, and connecting for other people, that it serves a grander purpose, that it makes that look like it was worth it to go through that, actually. Just like childbirth is like so painful, and yet you go through it, and then day after day you see your child grow and live, and you get, and it's all worth it. You're like, yeah, I'd do that again. So, but that's because there's this unconditional tie of love, of creator source love and expression. And it's so tangible with children. It's so tangible from the parent to child connection. It's another reason I truly believe Jesus uses that word, the Father. Other people across time and place, of course, use the word the Father, and why God, source, infinite creator, through language of man and symbology and everything, it gets best related to Father or Father Mother. I see more of a sequential growth, and I like the male term and using the generic for grammatical ease, but also for a representation of singular starting actionary energies are masculine. And so it's not to take away from feminine. Feminine is the second, and feminine is just as necessary. It's complementary, and it's contrasting to number one, but it's necessary for life. It's necessary for expression. It's necessary for ascension, evolution, and change. And so I don't think that just because it quote unquote comes second, time isn't even real. This is only when we spread something out in a linear sense that it looks like it comes second. But I don't find an offense in that. But I know some people might. But yeah. Again, those kind of triggering offenses, or why we're mad about those kind of things, they all come from the circus show nonsense of whatever we might have been, seeing them misuse and misrepresent from before. So, we can let those things go. We don't have to tie into them and make us upset every time, make us find a new word, or make us come up with something completely different, because truth is just one thing. And the further deviations, distortions, and like a thesaurus, we're getting further and further away from that term. Yeah, they offer an expression of likeness from a perspective to almost say something similar to it, but it's, at the end of the day, it's not the same thing. They are all the same thing as trying to reflect the one, but the one is like unspoken. The one is not a word. The one is something much greater than that. The one is everything, right? So it's kind of like in math where we have a square and a rectangle. A square follows the rules and can be determined and seen as a rectangle under the instructions of what we can be a rectangle in mathematics. But a rectangle can never fall into the parameters of what a square is. Right? But you need the square in order to make a rectangle. And so I find that it's sort of like that. But I think a lot of the shows out there are like, rectangle, everybody you just get a rectangle and you're good, and forget the square. Who cares? We don't need the square. The square is hijacked. The square is stolen by mainstream. The square is an inversion. And not to laugh at inverted gods, because I do believe that there, is an activity of sorts that attempts to do things like that. But I think at the end of the day, that consciousness in itself, it knows that it's hiding from God. It knows at the end of the day that God is over there doing this, and that at some point God's going, at some point they are going to get so fed up with, so sick of, and sick and tired, or bored with, or even, I don't know, whatever, I'm not going to get so into this. I'm going to get into good and bad and all this kind of stuff. But I do think at some point they'll be craving, God, just take your face away, just look my way, please. You're there, I know you are. And God will be like, Finally, yes, yeah, I am. You know, enough with that stuff anymore. I saw it all. I don't even need to be told about it. It's already happened. It's good. I get it. You tortured yourself enough with the hellscape. Let's get on with it now. And heaven will be back to visible and back to livable, you know. And when I say heaven, of course, I don't really, I'm not like a religious person either. I didn't grow up in any kind of religious background. So I don't really mean, I know some people will hear that and then think, oh, I must be thinking of somebody's version of heaven, but I'm not. I just mean truth. I mean things to be seen in true light, the way that God intended with His will and organic templates to actually be functioning and allowed to be functioning. That's what I meant by heaven. So anyways, I have talked long enough this morning. I meant to be short, and now I've been half an hour. So thank you so much for giving me your time today. And I'll leave it there for now.